Well, I obviously have a book to sell right now, but the book that's most appropriate to sell right now is Ann Coulter's book, Demonic, and it's about the liberal mob. And I felt that weekend like I was Margaret Mead, a sociologist that was looking at the behavior of the Netroots crowd, because when they were acting as a mob led by this one guy who was asking incoherent questions that weren't grounded in reality, everybody, surrounded him and started to support him and started to chant, terrible things at me. But when we were over at the hotel where the two groups were mingling from Right Online and Netroots Nation, is that the actual lefties were kind of polite, wonderful people, and we just agreed to disagree on policy.
But with these personal questions, there's an agenda here. They want to make they want to discredit you. Now, when I read your book when it first came out, you told things about yourself that I remember asking you at the time, Andrew, a little too much information here. But then when I asked you about it, you said you wanted to get your story out. You wanted to inoculate yourself. For example, the president admitted that, he snorted cocaine. Barack Obama has admitted that in the past. I assume he did so as a means of inoculating himself from the question. Was that your idea, your thought? Even though you're not admitting to what they're asking you, but I'm just saying there seems to be an agenda to destroy you personally.
Well, I know how the left works. I know how the hard left works. It's Saul Alinsky. It's the politics of personal destruction. And if I'm going to make myself a public figure and one that aggressively exposes the hard left, I know that I'm going to be the object of their tactics. So I've exposed the worst of Andrew Breitbart, stuff I'm not even that embarrassed about. I mean, I went to college in New Orleans, and I did what you do in New Orleans during my early 20s, and that's pretty much it. I've got 4 kids. I'm happily married, and I have 4 kids now, so try and find...
Well, I became a Christian when I'm 22. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not answering anybody's questions about the stupid things I did in my youth, period, end of sentence. Why did you go, and do you regret it now? And we only got about 30 seconds.
No, of course I don't regret it. This is what I do. And going over to Netroots, I wanted to find Marcos Malitzis, who said that I was the hacker over at the Daily Kos. I wanted to talk to these people and hear why they feel that they should be able to get away with blatant lies.
All right, Andrew Breitbart. I don't know. It's either insanity or more courage than anybody I know, but certainly entertaining, and I'm glad you survived. So you're even saying it's on the hanging in there in the balance, the razor's edge, right?
That's right.
All right, Andrew Breitbart, thanks for being with us. And coming up, so whatever happened, remember last summer was supposed to be recovery summer? Disturbing new numbers that reveal why our nation is now more miserable than ever. The misery index is back. But first, one of President Obama's most controversial appointments blasts his critics on his way out of office. You won't believe what he has to say about Fox News. And we called for his firing a long time ago. One of President Obama's most controversial czars, Assistant Deputy Secretary for the Office of Safe and Drug-Free Schools, Kevin Jennings, has finally left the White House and on his way out took some, swipes at Fox News. In a departing interview, the openly gay Jennings accuses his critics, including Fox, of launching a defamation campaign against him, saying, quote, "It is complete and total victory for us and a complete and total defeat for our opponents because they tried to derail the work that I was brought here to do, and they completely failed to do so." But is it really a complete failure, Mr. Jennings, if you're stepping down after less than 2 years in office? Besides, how is it defamation if the facts are accurate? All we did here, for example, on Hannity was report all of the news that America was not hearing anywhere else, like how the former school teacher and founder of GLSEN had advocated promoting homosexuality in our schools, or how he'd been accused of not reporting an incident where an underage student told him that he was having sex with an older person. It was later revealed that the student claimed that he was 15 at the time, which is the legal age of consent in Massachusetts, where the incident occurred. Or what about how Jennings reportedly told members of the religious right to, quote, drop dead in a 2000 speech? Or how he cursed God in his 2006 memoir, Mama's Boy, Preacher's Son, by writing, quote, "What had he done for me other than make me feel shame and guilt? Squat. Screw you, buddy. I don't need you around anymore." And lastly, he wrote the foreword to a book called Queering Elementary Education, all of which occurred prior to Jennings joining Team Obama. Here with reaction are Republican strategist Karen Hannity and former White House special counsel, Fox News contributor Lanny Davis. Lanny, welcome back.
Hi, Sean.
Safe schools are, and by the way, this is his telling of the story, that a student, I believe a sophomore, came to him, said that he was meeting and having sex with strangers that he met at a bus stop, and he didn't report this. This was an adult. Didn't report it to anybody. His only advice was, well, I hope you're using a condom or smart enough to use a condom. Does that sound like a guy who has the appropriate credentials for safe schools are?
Well, he himself said that had he do it over again, then he mishandled that incident. But you're forgetting to mention what I think you agree with is that he sponsored a White House conference against bullying based upon sexual orientation. And even you, Sean Hannity, as much as we may disagree, agree that bullying can be dangerous. It sometimes leads kids to suicide on this issue.
Thing, Lanny, that's not the point. You know what? There are a lot of good.
Well, that is the point.
There are a lot of good qualified people that were available for this job. Now, this is another area, Karen, where, you know what, he didn't have to go through the process because this was an appointment by the president. But if he's writing the books for the queering of elementary education and writing the forward for that book, if he has this controversial past and controversial views and basically admittedly wanted to say F you to the religious community, the conservative religious community, does he seem like the best choice for that job?
Look, this was a purely political appointment. This was President Obama trying to curry favor with a certain constituency within the Democratic Party that I think at the time he felt very weak with. But you know what strikes me is the level of intolerance that Mr. Jennings displays to people who don't agree with him. He demands, I think he would like to mandate tolerance from people at the federal level as opposed to letting school boards and local legislators and local attorneys general deal with bullying issues at a local level. He wants to mandate it at a federal level, and he wants to push a certain agenda that is far outside of mainstream America.
Where is the defamation, Lanny, considering all of this is on the record, all of this is provable? And he even admits in this exiting interview there were times in the fall of 2009 when I really went home and curled up in a ball in my bed and didn't want to get out of bed the next day. Now, does that sound like somebody that...
I think Mr.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought you were done with your question. First of all, this is historic that you and I at least can agree on this program on something that his White House conference focusing on the problem of bullying, even among kids who have sexual orientation different from others, was a valuable contribution.
Bullying shouldn't be in schools. I agree, but that's not the point.
So we agree on that. On your question,
Sean, is there somebody better qualified than a guy that didn't have enough common sense to tell a young sophomore that's having sex with an adult, give him better advice than, oh, I hope you used a condom, or is writing the forward for the queering of elementary education? Are there better qualified people?
I don't think it's disqualifying. Therefore, I don't know whether they're better qualified people. I don't think it's disqualifying for someone who says he made a mistake 20 years ago that takes away from the accomplishment in the Obama White House. And by the way, Karen, I'm really shocked at political appointments. I know that never happened in a Republican administration.
Look, I don't know how you can defend this man. You can go out there and make apologies for something that he says he regretted 20 years ago. But he's also done a lot since then that he certainly doesn't regret. And the foreword that he wrote to this book, Queering Elementary Education, where he says that children are learning to hate every day in American elementary schools. Little children are learning to hate every day, and it is an indictment on teachers. It's an indictment on parents. It's an indictment on your pastors and your community neighbors that say if you do not agree with teaching as young as kindergarten homosexuality and what it means to be transgender and what it means to be bisexual, that you are therefore instilling hate in children. It's far more than that, Sean.
Well, let me give an example.
It goes deeper, but let's not forget. This is a man who wants to force sexuality, and I don't care if it's homosexuality or heterosexuality. We should not be forcing sexuality on kindergartners or on elementary school children, period. And that's his agenda.
Let me give a quote to back this up, because and Tony Perkins wrote about this. His research showed that in a 1997 speech, Jennings embraced the idea of actively promoting homosexuality. It goes on and on, where he also, in an unsigned article on the Gleason website in 2000, declared the pursuit of safety and affirmation are one and the same goal. Now, you know, there's a big difference between stopping all bullying, which is a noble goal that I don't want to see any kids bullied in school, and the idea that you are affirming or people, to kids especially, that whose parents may have different values, a lifestyle that they disagree with, Lanny.
No, I agree that teachers should be neutral on the subject of sexual orientation. Any suggestion there should be promotion of one type of sexuality or not, I disagree with, and I think parents should feel that tolerance is a good thing, and it's not the same thing to say that he's preaching tolerance as opposed to promoting something. So I think Karen is mischaracterizing what he's actually saying.
If he writes the foreword for the queering of elementary education, is that not a troubling sign?
Queering is an agenda. Queering is an agenda in the educational system.
Well, I don't like the idea of advancing any particular agenda. I agree with you, Karen. I think he would say he favors tolerance and anti-bullying, and even got Sean Hannity to agree with the latter.
But not tolerance toward people who disagree with him, not tolerance towards
he should be.
And by the way,
he should be tolerant.
He can claim all the success he wants.
I don't know
if he really
whether
wanted
he's
to stay there,
but he should be.
If he really wanted to stay there, he would have stayed. Couldn't take the heat, nor should he have been appointed in the first place. And you know what? Telling the truth about him obviously got a lot of people involved. Thanks so much, Lanny. Appreciate it. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Coming up, another troubling sign that the economy is still in decline. The misery index skyrocketing to a number that is not seen in decades. We're going to explain what that all means and much more. And Beckel coming up on our Great American Panel. And tonight, more bad news for Americans trying to recover from this economic nightmare. The misery index has jumped to a 28-year high. Now, the index, which was invented by the Democrats, simply combines the unemployment rate and the inflation rate. While it's not a scientific number, the misery index does help gauge just how badly the economy is faring on average American families. But where is the bump that Vice President Joe Biden promised us last year during Recovery Summer?
Thus far, we have allocated over $620 billion of the act. So the ripple effects have been felt thus far since the Recovery Act passed. But my point is, this summer, you're going to see even more ripple effect out there. This is the act is now, as I said, the pace on the ball is moving into its highest gear here in terms of direct investment in projects.
I guess we're still waiting for that so-called ripple effect. Joining me now with reaction from the Fox Business Network, Nicole Petalides is here. From the Wall Street Journal, Stephen Moore is back with us. That was last summer. Things have gotten decidedly worse. You know, the IMF, their comments, Standard & Poor's, their predictions, Moody's, et cetera. You know, what are the chances double dip or worse?
Well, these are chances, right? Well, we're looking at, this is a year later. First of all, confidence has dipped again. We just saw the misery index, which really compiles both unemployment with inflation together, worst levels in 28 years. We saw QE2, which was supposed to help employment. Did it give us jobs? No. It was supposed to boost real estate. Is your house worth more? No. I mean, they really did not help the economy. The only thing it really did was inflate commodities. So in the meantime, unemployment still high. Underemployment is at 16, 17%. These are the people who would like to work more or can't get a job at all, or they take part-time jobs.
We don't count them anymore.
But
yeah, they're off the radar.
It's unbelievable.
You know, in addition to that, you've got the 9% officially unemployed, the 16% that can't find a full-time job. But then the real problem is the 84% of Americans who do have jobs. When you talk about that inflation number, we're running at 5 or 6%. Guess what, Strawn? Over the last year, wages have only risen 1%. That means that American middle-class paychecks are shrinking. That's a big that's what undid
Here
Jimmy
are
Carter.
numbers that bother me the most. Long-term unemployment now is worse than it was during the Great Depression.
Right.
Number one, housing prices have fallen further than the Great Depression. African-American unemployment is now near and at depression levels, and we have other metrics near depression levels.
Well, the biggest problem, if you're Barack Obama, is you've sort of blown your wad, right? I mean, over the last
One way to put it, Steve.
Over the last 2 years,
Very
what have they
eloquent.
done? They've spent over $2 trillion, right? We've had the pedal of the metal on the money creation. What do you do as a next act?
Well,
there is no plan B.
Well,
in
QE3, but no, I'll tell you what Democrats are pushing. Higher taxes, QE3 is in the background, and more stimulus spending. The very things that created a lost decade for Japan.